Hello, everybody, and welcome to another stimulating episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be talking about America's favorite septuagenarian. No, not Bernie Sanders, you might be thinking, but rather Lin Shaye, and the chamomile tea budget of one movie called Insidious, The Last Key.
Did you look up her age? Is that accurate?
No, I know a 7-year-old when I see one, John. I mean, if anything, I'm probably like lowballing it, right?
No, I'm gonna look now.
I'll be your host for this evening.
Continue.
Joining me tonight, questioning my age guessing abilities. He's the business manager at BloodyGoodHorror.com. He literally, people think I'm joking. He literally lives in a tower in Manhattan, looking down, judging us all. His name is John Schnars.
I mean, the tower part is accurate. The judging part, I don't have time to judge people anymore. So
You're beneath his judgment. That's how much he thinks of you.
He's too busy to even think about us, is what he's saying.
So Lin Shaye, 74 years old.
Oh, you're saying I was exactly right?
Yeah, you were pretty spot on there.
There you go.
So,
Next up on the show, coming to us from Indiana, his name is Casey.
Hello, and that officially makes Lin Shaye old enough to be my mom.
Next up on the
Barely.
show,
no.
next up on the show, founding member of the new class and host, writer of BGH Thirsty Thursdays, and host of the streaming thing there.
Yeah.
It's
Tweet with
Sophie.
BGH.
Tweet with
There you
BGH.
go.
Yes.
I just wanted to see you sweat.
Yeah,
Did
I
good.
am sweating actually. I just got a little warm. And last up tonight, joining us, the famed show killer himself. Please welcome the man with the beanie, one Mr. John Shelton.
Oh, this show is never going to air, so I don't even know why we're bothering.
I think since
Good to go
Going
through the
straight to the
motions.
further.
the show's been lost to the further. I think it's been determined that you have actually made it through a show now without us losing it.
Yeah, I've broken my streak.
But you know how I like to never let people forget things.
No, none of us know that, right? Everybody?
Guys, there's another Insidious movie out, and we're here to talk about it.
Again? Jesus.
They cooked up
Sorry.
more bullshit to bring the series back, and then they put it into theaters. I was super, like, the second week, it was already in the theater way at the end. You know how there's always that, like, I go to AMC or Regal or whatever. I think it's an AMC. And you go to the end of the hallway, and there's that one weird theater with, like, half the seats and the tiny screen. That second weekend, this was already there.
So yeah, I hate to break it to you though. This in its second week is already at like 50 million in the U.S.
Shut up.
Yeah, on a budget of like 10
No.
to make. So
What
they
is
are-
wrong
Wow.
with you people, America?
Our friend Jeff Blum is just counting his dollary dues all the way to the bank.
I'm not sure who Jeff is. I know who Jason Blum
Or
is.
Jason, Jeff. I got a friend
Brother.
Jeff Blum.
He's
too.
the accountant.
Yeah, he's,
Jeff,
the guy-
Jeff's his manservant.
he's actually the money counter, so,
Ah.
which they need over there at Blumhouse. Yeah, so I was optimistic that because this was called The Last Key, it was actually the final one. We
But
should discuss
now,
this later.
there's no
but-
way now, right?
Yeah, I mean, now they're gonna spin out like Lin Shaye. They'll stop calling it Insidious and just call it like, such and such featuring Lin Shaye.
I
'cause
just
she's
li-
a star.
I just like the idea that she plays like hardball every time another one of these scripts comes up, that she's just like, what are you guys going to do for me?
Yeah,
Just saying.
I'm 74. I don't need your money.
I'm just saying I could use a new bird bath in the back of the house, but it's not gonna build itself.
Yeah, they get Lee Wanell to go just fucking hammer up a bird bath for her.
He goes to her house and fixes shit.
Please do this, Lynn. I need to work.
These stairs are getting kind of rough. Could I get a railing out back?
Yeah.
That would be great.
I might get a kiss scene in this next movie, so I might really need you to stay. We'll come back to some of this. don't
Yeah, we'll
worry.
come back. So, before the movie started and all that, the bad stuff happened. Before the bad times, I saw a bunch of trailers that I hadn't seen that I want to talk about. Because this is usually, I guess, if you think about it, you get past Halloween, and then there's usually like this spate of releases of like, oh, we didn't want to release this in Halloween, so we push it in November. Then December's dead, and then you kind of start getting new trailers for the year around January. So number one I want to talk about is The Quiet Place or A Quiet Place. I'm not sure which one. I think it's A Quiet Place.
I think it's A. Yes.
And this
Because
is
they don't care about where the quiet place is, it seems. They're just looking for any quiet place.
this is
Yeah.
Non-specific.
starring
Yeah.
John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, from the best I could tell, parents with a child who live in a world with some type of monster zombie situation that like can hear them, and so
So-
they can't. It's like Tremors, but you can't make any noise at all.
There was chatter on what's it called, the Slack channel, our patron Slack channel. Shout out patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. That this film is rumored, or someone has rumored it to be the J.J. Abrams Cloverfield film. Has anyone else heard that?
No,
Oh,
I thought we
That
was-
I thought we said last week that it was in space.
Well, that was the God Particle. That was
What
like
if
the
that's
one that.
a swerve, and then we're just supposed to be looking for a space movie, but then it's really not?
I mean, that would be genius.
Just saying.
I'm not quite there yet. If they're at that.
Oh,
place.
so John
this is
Krasinski.
directed by John.
Yeah, John Krasinski directed.
Yeah.
He
this.
also has a writing credit on it.
I gotta say, I
Who,
thought that.
John Krasinski or J.J. Abrams?
John Krasinski
Oh, that
directed
would-
and is a writer.
I
That would
thought
have been a dead giveaway.
I thought the trailer. I thought the trailer looks fantastic, and
Yeah.
John Krasinski's beard, pretty into it.
Yeah.
It's like all down his neck. He's got the full like neck beard.
I love Emily Blunt too. So
Yeah.
You know, I never really had much thoughts about her until we reviewed the girl on the train or whatever, and then I was like, oh, she's pretty good.
But didn't you see her in Live, Die, Repeat or whatever
I
they
never saw
ended
it.
up calling it?
I never saw that.
Tom
Oh.
Cruise, the movie
Brooke,
too.
good on
Yeah,
her.
that movie is really
Oh.
good, and Emily Blunt is fantastic.
yeah,
in
that
it.
movie that's a dope movie.
I've heard.
Also, she's jacked as shit in that movie, which is great.
Yeah.
So yeah, Quiet Place. Somebody had written into this last week. We hadn't seen it. The Slender Man trailer,
Mhm.
which is like
Slenderman.
disappointing because it just looks like they made a generic Hollywood ghost movie when I feel like you could actually do some cool shit with Slender Man, but it doesn't seem to be the case here. Did anybody else see this?
Oh yeah.
I've seen it. I haven't seen it in the theater though. But yeah, you're right. It just looks like let's slap some spooky, dark-colored vines coming out of a dark shadow, and
It was like a bunch of ripped
it's-
off stuff from like Ring videotapes. I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like the ultimate Slender Man movie should be found footage.
Well, yeah. Have any of
yeah.
y'all seen Marble Hornets?
Yeah.
Like back in the day when Marble Hornets. That's what it should be.
So
I don't. What is a Marble
Marble
Hornet?
Hornet is like one of the things that sent Slender Man like bigger than it turned out than it was originally, and it was this just like a bunch of kids, I think, or like tweens or
Yeah,
20s
it was like
or
a bunch
whatever.
of found footage
They
videos
did-
on YouTube.
Yeah, they did a series of like found footage vignettes that I remember watching them, and I don't think I finished it, but I was like at 65, and they're all like 10 minutes a piece or something. But some of them are actually, I mean, at least I remember at the time being pretty creepy and interesting.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, yeah, I don't know, it just seems like a missed opportunity to not go that way with this thing. But
I'm willing to say that I'm not writing it off yet. The trailer was not super good, but
it's also interesting to me because I feel
there's
like
a lot there.
there's a lot of question about kind of with this meme stuff, like who owns this? You know, is somebody getting
Yeah.
money for their idea and all this crap? So it's an interesting thing.
I would.
I think the answer is no. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just ready to check out to the internet.
Just really
I
quick,
am.
go ahead.
I'm like 95% sure that Slenderman started on the Something Awful forums.
Yeah, it
But
was
I don't
a
have proof on that.
the
Well,
original
did-
thing was a Photoshop contest, and then somebody took a picture of like an old timey picture of kids in a playground, and they photoshopped them into the background. That was the original thing, and then from that, people started like making up
Yeah,
fiction
there
about
was,
them and stuff.
Wasn't it? I'm sure. I thought we had talked about it on the show. Maybe we have. Maybe we haven't. But there was a there's like an HBO documentary.
Yeah, about the
Slender Man.
two girls that killed their friend or whatever.
Yeah.
Tried
It's like
to do that. She didn't die.
yeah. Which is why Slenderman didn't befriend them or whatever.
Try harder.
She's like, I should
Um,
claim fine.
you
She's
failed.
Sounds so
me.
disappointed.
Yeah, but like that doc was actually pretty good. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
watched the whole thing in one sitting. It was kind of like, oh Jesus Christ. So I don't know. We'll see.
Um,
The trailer was mad.
How
somebody
many sittings does it usually take you to watch a documentary?
it depends.
Nowadays, a lot, multiple, several.
I mean, like I talk about like playing video games, but I can't sit down and play a game. If I get a 45-minute session in, that's like incredible. Like that's a feat of strength, basically,
There you go.
without somebody screaming or a dog pooping
Parenthood.
somewhere or whatever. Yeah. Somebody who knows more about the New Mutants, talk about it. Tell me about it. Because
New
this trailer
Mutants
looked
is
awesome.
It's a movie coming out. That is actually part of the Marvel Universe. That was another X-Men spin-off comic. I don't know too many details, like what characters were on it and whatnot, but it's kind of like the BGH new class for the X-Men.
Mhm.
But this time around, because you even see the full Marvel logo and everything comes up ahead of time, so Marvel Studios and everything, I believe, but they're giving it a very strong horror spin to it, so which I think is cool because I don't remember the comic having a horror tone to it at all. So it's kind of cool to see them experimenting there, and
Yeah,
I think
so-
it seems like a good way to do it. The setting and stuff, at least that they give us in the trailer,
That was
looks pretty solid.
that was the thing that super caught my attention. Was like it starts off as a trailer, and you see the Marvel thing, and you're like, oh, okay, this is some kind of like X-Men First Class type of
Yeah.
thing, or where you've got young mutants, and then like halfway through the trailer, it turns into like a horror movie trailer. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely going pretty. I don't want to say like hard horror, but they're not messing around. This looks like it's a pretty straight horror movie.
but to see
type
a
setup.
like a spooky
With
superhero
mutants.
thing, yeah, it was really
Yeah.
wild.
I also don't know if you guys have looked up, but it's directed by the guy who his only other directing credit is The Fault in Our Stars, which is an
Nice.
interesting
Oh.
choice. John's reaction.
I have-
Nice.
Tried so much.
Are you a fan of that movie?
I know, but I saw the trailer so many times for some reason. It was like one of those trailers that was in front of like 15
Um,
movies that we saw.
I
And
have
yeah.
I have actually seen that movie because my wife's a big fan.
I read the book.
Is it good? Is it good?
Oh my
John.
God, John.
John, sometimes you watch movies for love, you know?
Yeah, I mean it's touching. It's sad. I like to read about like kids dying young.
That's the one that he's like a Martian, right? It's like the Martian, but
Yeah,
he's in love with a girl.
No,
or-
no. It's a cancer.
No,
it's a
it's
cancer.
about a girl with
Kids that have
cancer.
cancer.
It's a cancer thing. My thing is, I'm not into like sadness porn, which I feel like that is. So it's just like not my jam.
100%.
This director is also listed as being one of the screenwriters of a film adaptation of The Stand.
Oh,
So
That doesn't exist.
it is listed on
We're-
IMDb as announced.
Okay.
did
Okay.
anybody else get the Pacific Rim 2 trailer? Because that was
Yes.
dope.
Yeah, I've seen that twice now.
Is
Yeah, I've seen
Del
that twice
Can't
too.
wait.
is Del Toro directing this or just producing?
No, yeah, he's just producing.
Yeah.
Do we know who's directing?
Negative. I would guess it was like the effects producer from the first one, if I have to bet.
Stephen S. DeKnight.
Oh, Steven, my boy.
He's a producer and writer known for Daredevil 2015,
Hmm.
Spartacus: War of the Damned, and Angel, the show.
Oh!
All right, settle down.
I gotta admit, I wasn't super excited about a Pacific Rim 2 when they first announced it, just because
Wow.
it's been so long and Del Toro wasn't going to be directed and stuff. But that trailer looks pretty hot.
So this dude has only directed television. He directed 3 episodes of Angel, 2 episodes of Smallville, 1 episode of Dollhouse, 1 episode
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
1 episode
Also a
of
Joss Whedon show.
and 1 episode of Daredevil, and that's it. So,
Hmm.
which doesn't mean
I think-
that much, I guess, but it's interesting.
The big question for me with Pacific Rim 2 will be how long is it? Because I'm like pretty excited if it's like an hour 30 to hour 45. If it's like 220, I am decidedly
Yeah.
less excited.
Was
Was-
Pacific Rim really long?
I can't remember.
No, but you know how they do with these things.
Yeah.
At the Pacific Rim 1, I would guess was 2 hours long at least. But
Also, like a bunch of returning characters, and I found myself just being like, I remember Charlie Day was in this movie, and the other weird German doctor dude, but I'm just like, do I need to know like who they are? Because I don't. I guess not.
Well, and then-
Probably.
Yeah.
it looks like they're turning the like German doctor guy into like the bad guy now.
No, wasn't
Sort
he?
of.
Didn't he start off as a bad guy in the first movie and then became a good guy?
And maybe he
No.
goes back to bad. I thought he was always kind of good.
I don't remember.
The guy that
No.
were I didn't pick up on him being bad this time around, but
I don't. Yeah, but again, I just don't.
It's a short trailer.
don't
I'm
remember.
just reading it a little maybe. But
Game night, not really horror, but pretty fun looking.
yeah,
Yeah.
looks sweet.
And
Jason Bateman.
truth or
Can't go
dare.
So I hadn't seen anything about this Truth or Dare.
Yeah, me neither.
It is wacky.
Yeah,
It looks bad, like regardless, but it could be like fun bad
produced by
Mhm.
your boy.
or like
Je-
fun ridiculous. I don't
Produced
know.
by your boy Jeff Blum.
Jeff Blum's brother is producing. I
Good
heard,
old,
so
good old
pretty into it.
Jeffrey Blum.
Jeffrey R. Blum.
starring one Lucy Hale of Pretty Little Liars fame.
Yes.
People out there who watch that show.
Another show that I've seen a ton of episodes of because my wife is way into it. I know that we had this conversation like 10 years ago, John, when that show debuted, but it's basically like if you rewrote Twin Peaks for like tweens and made it 1,000 times more confusing, it's that.
Cool.
And not nearly
not
as
gonna watch
good. Let's make sure we put that out there too.
Yeah.
So really quick on Truth or Dare, the thing that was really weird to me about this is Blumhouse is now putting the name Blumhouse in the title. Like, so the movie, like the title card after the trailer is Blumhouse presents Truth or Dare. Like, are they thinking that the name of the production company is so big now that people are just going to be like,
John,
oh yeah.
John, did we not have a conversation about how we were all doubting this movie until we saw Blumhouse and we went, oh, I don't know, maybe it'll be all right.
This movie is like, so this is why I'm asking, because this movie is so obviously aimed at like teens, right? So like the flip side argument is that, I mean, or at least that was my read on it. Maybe you guys can disagree with me, but the flip side on it is that they know this is going to go out to teens, and so they're actually trying to like build name recognition with teens so that they can like build like future shit around the Blumhouse brand.
I don't know. I think that the whole trailer was for the teens, and then at the end, the Blumhouse Presents was for us. Yeah, that's for the people who know, who are going to be like, because I had no desire to see this movie. Like the whole trailer, I'm like, this looks stupid. It looks like It Follows and Final Destination with like Snapchat mixed in.
Right.
It looks
and dumb,
really, really dumb.
Real dumb faces when they're possessed.
Yeah. It's got this whole like weird grin and giant thing. But then I saw Blumhouse Presents, and I'm like, I'll give it a shot.
Because I think, because it made me think of like a lot of people wrote off Happy Death Day, which turned out to be awesome. So I'm almost like, it is funny you say that, John, like, what are they kind of aiming at here? But I almost am willing to give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt. Now, that's only going to go so far, right? If they start using that benefit of the doubt to shovel me crap, then that is what it is. But
I will not eat your crap, Jeffrey.
Yeah. Will not eat crap from anyone named Jeffrey. There you go. Okay. John Schnars.
Yes, Eric.
I'm not sure. Have you heard that I've been reading Game of Thrones? Are you familiar?
What?
Yeah. Well, I made it. I had this idea because
you
two
don't
ideas.
talk about it ever, which is weird.
Two ideas.
So.
One, because I'm almost done. Like at the rate I'm going, I'm moving at a good clip right now. I might be done with Dance with Dragons within like a week or two.
Mm-hmm.
And I have right now like 6 or 7 samples on my Kindle of like what I want to read. It's mostly sci-fi, but this is all, as we've established, this reading thing, John. It's all new territory for me.
I know.
And I just today had
so
this.
Proud of you.
I had this epiphany. We have this Slack with all these great like people who read horror stuff. I'm gonna let them vote on what I read next.
Oh,
but I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna
great.
take it out of the.
Good.
I'm gonna take it out of the things I've already kind of cultivated as like, here's my list, and then just like, all right, you guys tell me what I'm reading next.
Are you gonna do it in random nonsense, or are you gonna do it in?
No. You got to join book club, I would think. BGH book club on Slack.
Fair. All right.
If you want to be a member of that Slack, patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. I'm also I'm gonna record an episode of the Eric Show just with all of my thoughts on Game of Thrones when I'm done with the book, so I can just get it all out because nobody wants to talk to me about it, and it's been driving me crazy.
Yeah, because everyone was done talking about it like 6 years ago.
No, yeah, totally.
I love this idea. I'm actually very supportive of you. I will listen to this episode.
Great.
So.
I have thoughts.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Are you going to let people send in questions for you to answer?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Sure.
That's a great idea.
Oh, let's do that.
Nice work, Sophie.
Oh my God. This is excellent.
It may actually take like more than one drive to work to get all this in, but we'll see.
You're going to be late to work, just sitting in your car.
Talking to
Still
myself.
talking. And another thing about that Daenerys, I'll tell you.
What did you just say?
Daenerys.
Yeah, Daenerys. Yes, John. Just like M. Night Shyamalan, ding dong.
Shyamalan.
Melon. Shy Melon.
Shy
melon.
Anybody drinking anything tonight in Joe's absence?
Some tea.
Sophie looks like she's got something good over there.
I just finished a. Go ahead.
Sophie.
I'm drinking. This isn't that exciting. I'm drinking a can of Rupture IPA from Odell Brewing.
Pretty exciting. Huh?
That's all I got.
John
I
Shelton.
picked it to represent the rupture that happens in Lin Shaye's family in this movie.
Oh,
Oh.
that's nice.
You're welcome.
Nice.
Mhm.
Shelton.
I just finished off a prairie bomb, I think is the name of the beer, which is a big old boy that's been sitting in the back of the fridge for a while. It's like a 12% coffee chili kind of thing.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah,
That sounds really good.
it's very
I had a
tasty.
little bit of Kirkland bourbon.
Ooh.
Costco bourbon.
Kirkland, as in Costco.
Yeah.
You got
It's-
Costco.
Hey, look, that's the place to buy your liquor, though. 'cause
Costco
it's
ass
actually
Jack
made
Daniels.
like this. It's like the same stuff as Knob Creek, but it's not aged as long.
It's a different
Yeah, because
brand.
isn't their vodka the same stuff as Grey Goose? It's just like not. It's filtered one less time or something.
Listen.
Yeah, pretty much. They use the same water source and everything.
So you're what I'm hearing is you're really drinking the Costco Kool-Aid over there.
Yeah,
Let's say.
it's not bad.
I mean, I'm sure it gets you to the same place, which really is what it's about, right?
Yeah, it tastes better than Jim Beam.
It'll just melt your insides on the way down. All right, guys. I think it's time. Let's take a quick break and talk about Insidious.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the prime time, bitch. Main feature.
And we're back. John Schnars, how was your physical today? I heard you got a physical.
A physical.
Oh, that was a Trump joke.
Trump.
follow me.
Yeah. No,
Are-
it didn't. His physical was on Friday, I think,
Are
which
you
is
a-
when I got mine.
Are you of sound mind and body?
Yeah. I'm very stable. I've been called a very stable genius. in
On
fact,
a
so-
scale of 1 to 10, how much dementia would you say you're experiencing right now?
Do you think he answered like yellow? Just-
Tastes like burning.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
John
Yeah, it's
Schnars,
good. Good times.
you contain multitudes, John. You're a man of the people who lives in a tower.
Mhm.
You went to Duke, but you're not racist. It's really like people can't
Most of the
people
time.
think they can pin you down, but it's really harder than you might think.
No, I mean I try. I aim.
Yeah.
I aim for diversity in
There you
all
go.
things.
There you go. With that said, John, please bring us the word of the day.
Eric, today's word is perfidious.
Mm.
Perfidious.
Does that mean having
It-
keys for fingers?
Oh God, I did actually do some research on words that were related to key, and I
Please-
just like couldn't.
please-
I didn't have enough
Please
time.
tell me you Googled word for finger keys.
No, yeah, no, that would have been next level. No, perfidious simply means deceitful or untrustworthy.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it comes to us from the Latin word perfidia, which means treachery,
Hmm.
which I liked. Yeah, perfidious is actually a synonym for insidious.
Oh.
Yeah. There's actually a lot of interesting synonyms for insidious, and I was pretty sure I've used insidious in the
Oh, yeah.
5 other times
yeah.
we've reviewed an insidious film. So
Are
here we
you-
are.
Are you trying to
Perfidious.
say that the makers of this movie are being perfidious by trying to trick us into watching this bullshit again?
As long as they're not being perfidious in claiming it is the last
Right.
of all the keys, I'm
No,
okay with
I
that.
think you've just come up with a name for the inevitable spin-off that we're gonna get after this. You can look forward to the Perfidious series.
Well, John, he's got 5 fingers, so 5 more movies, I
True.
guess. 4 more.
So-
well, no, it was the last key. I don't know where the first 4 were. But
right.
Also, why was it the last one?
Yeah, there were no
jumping the
other
gun.
keys previously.
We're only-
There's so much.
Listen, we're only
So
just
much.
getting to the root of the real questions behind this movie. John, tell me what this is about. I'm also curious who directed it, because as we know, James Wan has kind of stepped away from the series.
He's still produced. So this was directed by Adam Robitel, whose previous films include The Taking of Deborah Logan, which we actually didn't. That's the only other film. He is listed as a writer on Paranormal Activity: Ghost Dimension. I
Which
We
one
should
was that?
mention along with
Ghost Dimension was like the 3D one with all the gimmicky crap in it, right?
yes, I think it was the
Yeah.
last one.
I forgot that existed
Um,
until you just said that.
So along with James Wan, you also have obviously Jason Blum, and then Oren Peli, famous for inventing or birthing the what's it the Paranormal Activity
I don't
series.
like it. Yeah.
Yeah, so this the last key, Insidious, the last key. This is the fourth Insidious, also known as Insidious Chapter 4. I feel like I also remember this being called Insidious the Ghost Key. Do you guys remember this?
I didn't even realize this was the fourth one until you guys told me today.
I don't remember Insidious 3, so.
At all.
Well,
I don't remember
I feel
anything
like
from Insidious 3.
when they initially released trailers for this, I could have sworn it was called the Ghost Key, and then it changed names. But maybe I'm like just straight up.
Is
imagining it.
Insidious 3 the one where it's just Lin Shaye and she doesn't team up with the dudes until like the very end?
Yeah.
And is that the
Yeah.
one where she's like body slamming and like stone cold stunnering ghosts in the
Yes.
further?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Now-
it's the girl who's in like a body cast because she got hit by a car.
Yes. And
Yeah,
then
so-
and that was like that was a prequel,
Insidious
but
Chapter-
before this. Oh
You
my
guys
God.
heard nothing.
Hello.
Is that a call from the ghost dimension?
Casey, god damn it.
I thought Eric was working in new sound effects.
So okay,
That's
so
sound for the further.
I'll leave you alone after this, John. But well, no, I won't. But like, so that was like the farthest back prequel, and then this is ahead of that in the timeline, but still
So-
pre 1 and 2.
So 1 and 2 are like chronologically in order, and then 3 is a flashback or a prequel to 1, and then this is after
The first
or
prequel.
after 3, but is now
Okay,
it's
this
actually
is
like
this is Attack of the Clones.
yeah, well, and it's also like the one that chronologically has the most stuff the earliest because this movie, and we'll get into the actual plot now, is actually about Lin Shaye and the house that Lin Shaye, who plays Elise, famed ghost hunter who is awoken in the middle of the night by phone calls, people coming telling her they need to come hunt. She needs to hunt their ghosts or something. I don't know.
We
seems
have
like
to
a
talk
shitty
about
life.
that late night phone call too, and what I perceive to be her lack of urgency. But we can get there when we get to the end of the
Well,
movie.
how about the fact that anyone's calling her at like 3 a.m. and she's answering the phone?
Listen,
like
she's 74 years old. She needs your beauty sleep. You know, you gotta
it
rest
was,
up.
it was 2010. I don't know. Old people don't sleep that much sometimes.
Ghost
It's-
hunting ain't easy.
Yeah. So Elise, so this film essentially, I can't remember. It actually opens with her as a kid, right? There's like sort of like the pre-story about her family, and we see her
Yes.
as a child with her mother in their home. They live in this home that is literally like loomed over by this huge prison in a town called Five Keys, Arizona. I think. No,
Get
New
it?
Mexico.
That was New Mexico.
New
Yeah.
Mexico.
So we see her in Five Keys in this like pretty rundown house. Her father is a prison guard and lives like basically right next to the prison. And she is like seeing ghosts, and the dad is abusing her for having this ability. He's a drinker, and essentially what happens is he locks her in the basement.
To be
Some, like-
fair, I've known some prison guards in my day. It was pretty spot on.
all right, it's creepy.
Huh.
But they so he locks her in the basement. This
I
is
mean,
all
except
sort of-
for the serial murdering part you find out about later. But I guess like
Hey, let's not spoil too much here.
it's okay. I think it's okay.
So he locks young Elise, young Lin Shaye in the basement. The mom goes down because she's like I don't know, going to check on her or something. And Elise has opened a doorway in the basement, and something comes out and kills the mom. So this is all like sort of like prequel to like why is Elise the way that she is now. And so then we see her get a phone call from this guy Ted Garza, who is now in the year, I don't know, that the first sequence is in like, I don't know, the 40s or the 50s or so. I guess it's the 50s because they're talking about like duck and cover and like nuclear bomb attacks. So it's kind of like present time. They then flash forward to, I guess it's 2010 now or something like
Yep.
that. And she is, famed ghost hunter. She gets a call from this guy Ted Garza, and he's like, "Hey, you got to come help me. I live at this address," and it's the same address. And she kind of has a moment where she's like, "I don't know if I can do this, blah, blah, blah." And she even like tells, so we also see her friends, Specs and what's the other guy's
Mullet.
name? Stop it.
That's fine. Specs and mullet is fine.
Tucker and Specs. They are like the lackeys. They are the sidekicks, and she is the psychic, which they try to make a joke out of several times.
Many times.
Many times.
Many times.
So so she tries to tell them like, no, you can't come. I'm going back to my house. I have to solve this. This is like connected to my life. Of course they come anyway. And they get involved in this whole sort of like replaying of her childhood that is also tied up in this present day haunting at this home that used to be her home. It is revealed that Ted Garza, who is the guy who called her, is living in this house by himself, by the way, has done no work to improve the home from like the 50s. He's like basically living in this fucking like falling down, like rat infested home. But he's also now.
It still has her parents' furniture.
Yeah, well, her handprints are on the wall, which first of all, I don't understand how the handprints got there in the first place. Like, how dirty were her hands? But whatever.
From that one time she stood there, yeah.
Yeah, but no, but so it's revealed that he is like kidnapped a woman, is like keeping her in the basement. So then this like starts to unravel a whole bunch of other shit. We meet Lin Shaye's nieces because she had a brother who she abandoned. We learned when she was like 16, left the brother with the father. We meet her nieces. Then one of the nieces gets like captured by the fucking ghost dimension or whatever. And so then she's like, now it's personal, and she really has to go into the further to solve this thing. And I mean, a bunch of other like heavy-handed plot nonsense happens, but that's kind of like the gist of it.
Yep, that's the gist.
Thanks. I'm glad.
Hey, Shelton, can you walk me through your emotions your emotions that you felt when we asked you to be on this episode?
Well, let's see. I think stage 1 is denial, bargaining, and then grief, and then it wasn't. It was like I don't have any plans for this weekend, so I'll go see the shitty movie, and why not?
Had you seen the other Insidious films?
I have seen the other Insidious films.
Oh, okay.
And, I think probably like I have the same opinion as most people. The first one was like surprisingly pretty good. First sequel, more of the same, but whatever. Third one, I don't know. I don't remember anything about it except that there was somebody in a body cast, and I think there was a window, something with a window. I don't know.
I mean, you had Lin Shaye body slamming ghosts. Like, what else do you need?
Nothing. I got nothing, man. And then this one, which I saw on Saturday, I saw like 3 days ago, and already it's like disappearing from my memory, like actively like erasing itself. So yeah, it's I don't know. Are we jumping into?
What do you think? What do you think of this? That was just my entree into asking you what you thought.
It was what it was, which wasn't very good. I don't know. There wasn't. What it felt a lot to me is like a spec script or something. Like this could have been anything, and they just sort of like wedged it into the Insidious universe and the further and all of that. A lot of things that just went nowhere. The characters didn't really like register as anything at all, which is probably part of the fact that like they've taken this like franchise and they've taken the side characters from the first 2 movies and tried to like build it around them. So they've got kind of, it's like they're kind of stock characters. You've got like grandma with the psychic powers, and then you've got the nerdy ghost hunter guy, and then like the funny guy, air quotes. And that's
I like that actor is like the thing that really upsets me.
I've seen him in other things and liked him, but like I think it's just like
who's this mullet?
Bad on this.
Yeah, like, his name's Angus.
You mentioned the psychic and the sidekick thing. Yeah. Like that was like a groaner the first time, but it's like okay, what? But then they like repeated it a few times.
Well, and it was pretty obvious. It was obvious a few movies ago too that they were setting kind of at least the 2 of them up. And probably with Lin Shaye for like spin-off stuff, I guess, even though they haven't really done that yet. But
yeah, no, they definitely like they put a little escape hatch in this in case it did well enough, which apparently it did to continue. Without
I don't think they need to turn them into spin-offs though. Like these are the spin-offs now. Like this.
Well,
movie
I know,
has, like...
but you've kind of mined it all, right? Like you couldn't get Rose Byrne and the other dude back, so you go back to talk about Lynn Shay more. But now you've kind of mined all that stuff, right? Because now I mean, we can talk about it, but they're up to the first film now.
But have they ever really gotten into like the Darth Maul guy, who is like the one,
Yeah. No.
guy who like everybody associates with Insidious,
Yeah.
the most famous character, but like I think he's the one who has been like the least served out of all like the like bad guys from these movies.
Yeah, we had know absolutely nothing more about him.
I guess
and
I
he
always
shows
thought
up
it-
in every one.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I always thought of him as like the archdemon or whatever, because even in the first film, it becomes more about the nun who's really a dude dressed up like a nun, which we actually find out in the second movie is a dude dressed up like a nun. And then,
Oh, I forgot about.
do you remember that?
I don't
Yeah.
remember the nun at all.
Not
I do
nun. It was like
remember
a
that.
She was, like,
woman.
the
She looked
lady
like
in
she was
black
wearing.
or something.
Yeah, she looked like she was
Oh
wearing
yeah.
like.
Okay, she had like a veil.
Yeah,
right?
she looked like she was wearing
Yeah, yeah,
funeral
yeah.
garb or something. But I
Yeah,
remember.
Helena Bonham Carter.
Like in the first film, I thought it was just like an aesthetic choice to have it played by a guy because it made it really like unsettling looking. But then in the second movie, you found out that it was a dude. It's a whole thing. The
Right.
second movie's a mess. All right, Sophie, what'd you think of this?
So I mentioned this pre-show, but I remember when I first saw the trailer for this movie, and I sighed a big sigh of relief, thinking, "Thank God I can finally not go see one of the Insidious movies." Because the only reason I saw 3 was because y'all asked me to see it for the podcast. So when Joe texted me earlier this week to ask if I would do the episode this week and that it was Insidious 4, I have to be honest with you, I seriously considered not speaking to any of you ever again. But here we are. So
You chose
every
poorly.
time I think that I'm done with this franchise, it just keeps happening. So I mean, I echo everything that Sheldon said. I honestly didn't like the original Insidious when I first saw it. I liked it a little more the second time, but I never really had the really kind of rosy memory or good reaction to this franchise that I think a lot of genre fans had. So the subsequent sequels being so bad, it doesn't bother me in the same way. I mean, they're terrible movies, but I didn't ever have this kind of like high
You weren't-
bar for
Yeah,
the
you weren't like
franchise.
personally offended by their badness. You were just like, oh, these are just regular shitty
I
movies,
mean,
I
I
guess.
was, but not because I liked the first one.
Yeah, fair.
So, I mean, I think we can get into it, but my overall impression of this movie is just that the plot is so uneven and it's all over the place. This movie felt like an anthology film that was just done really poorly. It feels like there are so many tiny stories that are told in very unsatisfactory ways and then not tied together with any kind of cohesive narrative that makes sense or should ever have been commemorated to film. And then I had a lot of issues that we can talk about later with just like a lot of the gender stuff being a mess. I mean, this is a movie that just is filled from the beginning to end with a lot of violence towards women without really having anything to say about it, or I think even realizing that it's doing it. And I found that very troubling.
Yeah,
Because
there's
again, they're doing it to be edgy and they don't really understand that. Yeah.
there's like a very serious conversation to have about Lee Wanell at some point. I mean, I feel like we've talked about him a bunch, but like,
we should have it.
but like, this is a dude who somehow has created like now 2 fairly Saw you can call iconic. You wouldn't call Insidious iconic, but like 2 successful at a minimum horror series, and like none of the films are well written. Like
No, they're all badly written.
they're all really
Like,
poorly written.
incredibly badly written.
And
I
like
think
to,
he might be a bad writer.
well, but like to,
Just putting that out
But
there.
to John's point, like he's still having massive success.
yeah, he's having a ton
Right.
of success. Well, and to Sophie's point, like I like my defense of him is like I actually just don't think he's like that sophisticated. So like I don't think he's trying to like do anything
Are you
intentional.
calling him?
About
Are
sort
you
of, like,
calling him a
gender.
simpleton?
Oh, just to be fair, I also don't think it's intentional.
No.
I
Yeah.
also think he's an idiot, but
No,
I
but
don't
listen,
think that makes it
yeah,
any better.
it's
No,
it's entirely.
if anything, it's like some ways worse, right? Because it's like he's just like channeling like fucking the like things that are like out in society in the world and like not thinking critically about them.
I mean,
But,
not for nothing either,
but
but
yeah.
both of these successful franchises were started by James Wan. So like you could make the argument that he's kind of just like riding the coattails of both of these things. like Saw and Insidious were both so big that I think you could make the argument that anybody, well, in the case of Saw, anybody did step in and keep making money with that series.
Well, except that he has writing. I mean, he was like, if not the primary, he's like a writer on
Sure.
all of them.
But
and he's
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
acted in all of them as well.
Casey, did you go?
Yeah, I went.
All
Or
right.
no, I haven't talked about it. I'm
No.
sorry. I thought you meant
You
the
mean-
movie.
Yeah, you did go to the movie though.
Casey, what'd you think?
That was like a final trick
I
question.
don't remember.
I'm not going to say anything a whole lot different from anybody else. This movie was disappointing. I think the one biggest thing I can point out, at least for me, is this movie was not scary hardly at all, and which is sad considering that, like Shelton said, the first Insidious, pretty solid flick, and it was actually fairly scary when I watched it the first time. So they kind of set themselves up to be the new thing in scariness. They tried, and I know it didn't hold up as it went over there, but you always expect, they always kind of tried for it, at least in 2 and 3, to go for some of those similar scares, and here they just didn't go for anything crazy. And I was, the way this was advertised and stuff like that, with the dude with the key hands and stuff like that, I was hoping we'd see something at least new and original as them trying to scare the pants off of us, and they didn't even really try. And that's the biggest disappointment of all, I think, because with those other movies, as we've said, they're pretty crappy movies, but you could usually get a couple jump scares, get your blood pumping a little bit, and enjoy it to some extent there. And this one, you don't even get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're saying you don't like jump scares that are telegraphed like 2 minutes in advance?
Yeah.
Where you're like, no, not here, not here.
Yeah, I was counting
right
off.
here.
Yeah, I was counting off.
But I'll have to say, like, I went to like a theater that was full of a bunch of idiots, and they loved it. Like they were all
Yeah, the middle school girls in my theater just were
Yes.
losing their mind.
Maybe these are movies for middle school kids. Maybe
I-
that's the secret. I don't know.
I mean,
yeah,
it definitely
and
is.
that's fine.
I was counting off the beats. Like you literally, like Sheldon saying, you can count off the beats in your head if you've seen enough of these. It's like when they're coming.
This is the fake out.
Yeah.
Okay, this
what
is
I-
the moment.
Yeah.
What I will say about this movie that I like sort of appreciated is that it wasn't just the same rote thing about the white bread family with the 2.5 kids in the suburbs and like all that stuff, the picture frames falling over. Like they kind of mercilessly save us from a lot of that
I'm
crap.
pretty sure there was at least one.
Well,
picture frame
maybe,
that fell over in
But
this.
so like I think that it's the stuff with Lin Shaye's childhood is at least an attempt to do something a little different, go a little deeper. But then you come out of this movie and you just think like, I can't believe that there's this like one of the biggest money-making horror series in the modern era is led by Lin Shaye of all
Yeah.
people. Like literally, I didn't even know. So I went and looked at her IMDb because in my head, Lin Shaye was like the teacher in A Nightmare on Elm Street, and then was in Insidious. And like, when I
Well,
looked at her
she's in-
IMDb, she's been in like a billion movies and pretty much
Yeah.
straight since the 80s. Like, but if you
Yeah.
keep looking deeper, it's like she plays nurse number 1 or like lady on the sidewalk. It's like not,
See, for me, she'll always be the. God damn. What are the name of the brothers that made Kingpin and Me, Myself, and Irene? Something About Mary. I mean, she plays Magda in Something About Mary. Like that's pretty
Yeah.
iconic.
And the thing is, like, I just don't think she's a very good actress per se. Like, the whole
Well, it
thing.
probably
She's
doesn't
great in
hurt-
those movies as a comic actress.
Right.
Like that's
Well, and it probably didn't hurt her career also that her brother was like the owner of New Line.
Wasn't her
I think,
husband?
or-
Isn't she married
It
to
was her-
Robert?
I thought it was
Shaye?
her dad.
No,
Good
the
God.
dude
Some
who
were
like.
some male relation.
rumors.
I
here.
thought she
They
was.
were related.
Wait a
somehow.
second. I thought she was married to the guy that was like the big force behind
Bob Shay.
A Nightmare on
Yeah,
Elm
that's-
Street.
I
Yeah.
thought that was her brother.
I'm looking it up.
We should probably find out if they're married or brother and
Jesus
sister, you
Christ.
guys. But anyway,
Maybe they were brother
They're
and
like the
sister.
White
and
Stripes. Maybe
married.
I don't
they
know.
were
I
married.
just,
Maybe they were
like-
brother
Oh,
and
they're
sister.
they were brother and sister.
Okay,
brother
okay.
And sister.
I think she's kind of like not a very good actress, and then on top of it, she's handed this just terrible script to read, and there's just something kind of absurd about the whole thing that I can't get over. But also, they're sort of continuing with the Lee Winnell and Mullet character, the sidekicks.
Tucker,
And
please.
This
call him by his
movie
name.
sort of has airs of like being a comedy, and it's just it's all centered around these two. They're like comic relief. There's practically like goofy soundtrack when they come on the screen. and they're painfully unfunny. Like just
Yeah.
so bad and not funny, and it's repeated. Just these like one-liners and jokes. It's really just. I mean, somebody said something about it feeling like an unfinished script. It just everything feels half-assed in the whole thing. There's so many plot holes. None of it really makes sense. Like,
It is legitimately nonsensical at times.
yeah, like
And,
they
I
live
mean-
next to, you know, when we flash back, they live next to a prison that factors in not at all to the movie, except they want to do this cool gag where when someone is fried in the electric chair, their power fritzes out, and then young Lin Shaye goes, "Oh, his name was blah blah blah, and he was killed for this, and his last words were this," and so it's all it is a dumb vehicle to like have her be clairvoyant.
Well, and they sort of set it up that because she's talking, especially in the beginning, and then it becomes a whole thing like there's all these ghosts in this house. There's so many ghosts in this house, and you sort of just like assume it's because it's next to the prison,
Sure.
and then like spoiler alert, the reveal is that the dad is also like a fucking serial killer and has like piled up all these bodies in the
I
basement.
guess what's weird
Oh,
is that
speaking of
I guess what's
really
weird
quick,
is that
let
we
me
never.
interject here just because it points to that same point. Is I had no idea, but when I looked at the plot of this on IMDb, the dad's supposed to be the executioner at the prison.
Oh, they never mentioned
Then
that.
why wasn't he there when someone got
Yeah,
executed and he was at home?
That's fair.
Also,
point.
also no state has ever executed enough people with enough frequency that you would have someone whose only job was to execute.
Like
people.
every day. It's just like every day.
you just like you go to work
All
like
right,
3
Steve.
times a
Like,
year.
oh, it's
Put on a
6.
black
You're,
belt.
you're allowing your work to come to the
Dear-
podcast too much now.
Dear, it's 6:00. It's almost time for the nightly execution. But then and then we flash to modern day, and this new dude is living in that house, but yet the prison looks dilapidated and not being run anymore. But they just let this dude live in this old like rundown
It
house.
had to have been abandoned at that
How
point.
about the house?
Yeah.
He legitimately hadn't even cleaned the kitchen, but he had been living there for months.
Yeah.
Also, can we talk about this? Is a weird aside, but his hat did not fit his head. It's driving me nuts.
That drove me nuts too. It's like, oh, come on.
It's like,
I
"Shit's
blame-
raining."
I blame Lee Winnell. I don't know. Seems like it's his fault. Seems like bad writing. But
I'm
yeah,
so glad
so
that everyone else knows that. It was awful.
so then this other thing comes in where Elise, right, who's
Yeah,
Lin
Elise.
Shaye, she reconnects with her brother. Okay, so as a kid,
Well, he won't speak to her
right?
because
So
she
as
abandoned.
as a kid, Elise was clairvoyant. It's freaked her father out. This incident happened where a demon sort of helped, like killed her mother using her or whatever. It's the whole thing. So then they're living with the abusive father, and then they kind of flash forward a little more, and we find out as a teenager, she ran away. So her brother won't talk to her because she kind of left him with the abusive father. But then they kind of reconnect when they're older, and her brother, for as old as Lin Shaye looks in this movie, her brother looks like he's about 105, but somehow has 2 like maybe 20-year-old daughters, like maybe.
Yes. How the age situation was so confusing.
So as Mark said last week,
Yeah.
this guy fucks obviously.
No, he's like kind of like a known character actor. His name's Bruce Davison.
A known fucker.
Oh,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I definitely recognized him from stuff, but I couldn't put my finger on what it was.
Maybe you recognize him as the original Willard from the original
No.
film Willard.
No.
Oh shit! Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Also,
He's in
did
the
anyone
X-Men
notice how
movies.
heavy-handed
Yeah.
it was that his name was Christian?
Oh my God, no. I actually
Was his
did wanna
middle
have a
name-
conversation about how this movie like wants to have religious undertones to it, but like literally
It's
none of
too
them make
complicated.
any
Was
sense.
his middle name Further? Christian Further. So
Oh,
so anyway,
Christ.
so like okay, so they reconnect sort of. He's still mad at Lin Shaye, but the daughters are immediately kind of drawn to her, and one of them in particular tells her that she too has this power. So in the
Her
midst
name
of
was Imogen.
Imogen, in the
Mhm.
midst of all this happening, a very strange thread starts to occur where Lee Winnell, who's got to be, we determined, like almost 40 years old, right? 38
He
or
is
whatever.
40 years old in real life.
Him
Mhm.
and Mullet,
But
who's
he acts like a 12-year-old in this movie.
And
so
Mullet
maybe
is
that's it.
38.
Mullet,
Yeah.
who's like the same age. They both start hitting on these girls who were like coded as being pretty young. Like if they did not seem out of college. There's no way they're out
I
of
thought they
college.
were teenagers.
They
I
are-
thought
It
high
turns out
I
they're a
school.
little
also
That was
they were-
initial,
I mean,
and then
I
we
think
started
the movie
hitting.
intentionally doesn't tell us how old they are.
They're
But
like
they're coded as being. They still live at home. So
they're like hardcore flirting and hitting on them, and the movie is trying to make it seem like this cute thing, but it comes off as so creepy, like because of the age difference, but also I guess because of like the circumstances they're in, like where I don't know, it's just like such a serious thing, and they're
Well,
being
they're
really
also like
creepy.
really incompetent at doing the flirting, so that makes it like seem less
Well,
threatening. But it's
but
still,
also
like,
no,
weird.
but
Lee
also
Winnell is playing like a 25-year-old, basically.
but also the script has them responding to it like
Yo,
positively.
yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
and like this happens, it is over and over again. It's not like when they first meet the girls are really pretty and they hit on them. Every scene they're in with these women, they're hitting on them, and it is so uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And spoiler alert, by the end of the movie, Lee Winnell like has a kissing scene with one of them.
So it works.
It's
Yeah.
very strange. It's very
He
weird.
literally wrote this script so that he could kiss this woman. I'm pretty sure.
Well, no, and
It's
then
like,
It was
but
so
that's the thing.
upsetting.
Like it becomes more puzzling and like more troubling when you know that he wrote the script, because you're like, in what universe A is this plausible? B, does this have literally anything to do with this movie? The only thing I could think is that they test audiences looked at this thing and were like, I'm a teenager and I want to watch a horror movie. Why do I care about this 7-year-old woman? Oh, okay, we're gonna write this little creepy romance in
there's
or whatever.
no way. There's
There's
no way.
that high school students want to watch a 40-year-old man
Yeah.
kiss a 25-year-old.
I'm not saying it makes sense. I'm just saying.
Hey,
I'm just trying to figure out how it ended up in
That's
this
not
movie.
an insult to any of you. Just like have age-appropriate partners.
Listen,
Casey, you're allowed to
Sophie.
kiss all of the 32 to 48-year-old women you want.
Sophie, love knows no
Yes.
bounds. You know what I mean? Listen,
Yeah.
Oh my God! I just,
listen.
I-
Oh wait, whoa,
Well,
whoa, whoa!
no,
Listen,
the problem
old
is more
people
that they're
can.
coded as teenagers. is the
Yes,
issue.
old people can date young people. Okay, I think it gets creepy when you write a movie about yourself making out with a character who's probably a teenager.
Yeah.
all it brings to
The-
mind to me is Mel Brooks in History of the World Part 1. It's good to be the king.
The no, the other weird thing with these girls is like they legit are non-characters. Like
Yeah.
they are completely interchangeable.
But we're
They are, like-
we're super supposed to care about them.
But like
But we
why? Like
don't.
they are given absolutely no backstory.
Yeah.
Well, but they're
No.
related to Lin Shaye, and that's
Yes,
all the backstory
And
you
like
need.
one of
Imogen-
them,
Imogen has the further powers.
yeah. But even
mean-
she only has like 10 lines in the whole movie.
Yeah, but this just seems at the same time, while it doesn't apply to the plot of the movie itself, to me it seemed fairly obvious that and I'm sure to some extent other people too, but they're setting up for sequels down the line, and they're giving themselves an option, because at some point Lin Shaye, she's 75, lovely lady, she's a good actress, but at some point she's not going to come back to do any more of these movies, and we're probably coming on that here pretty soon, and they're going to want to carry this on. So he's kind of setting it up now. They've got some lineage. They got the connection now for Spexton and the other guy to be there. And it's kind of stupid and showing their hand, but yeah, it didn't fit well for this movie at all. I'm just saying that's what I think is.
I mean, it's a fair point, and like Imogen of the two, the actress is like the more established of the two
Yeah.
of them. But
Sorry, I know where I know Bruce Davidson from, because I just found
oh,
he was
nice.
on Seinfeld.
uh,
I'm trying to find it. I think it's one of Susan's funeral, or no, when Susan dies and there's the board of directors or whatever for her charity. He's on
Yep.
it.
yeah,
Ah.
he's on several episodes actually.
Okay,
Now he's
'cause I just
he's
looked
the
at his-
dad, isn't he? Susan's dad.
No, it's a different guy. As impressive as Lin Shaye's IMDb is, that dude's IMDb is like he has been in every movie and TV show that has ever been made.
Yeah.
That is insane.
Yeah. Oh.
So I want to come back to Sophie. Do you mean to tell me that if Lin Shaye wanted to date a young dude, that's not okay?
So there's a couple things about it that are troubling. The age difference is not the most troubling thing. The most troubling thing is that, I mean, the age is troubling. The most upsetting thing, like you said, is that Lee Winnell wrote this movie
the scene. Yeah, exactly.
and wrote characters who are coded as being maybe, I mean, they are not old enough to drink legally. There's no way that their characters are old enough to drink legally. And he wrote a love story with one of them, which is gross.
Yeah.
And the
other-
extent of
the
their
other-
hitting on them is like, you pretty, huh? You
Yeah.
know, like
I mean,
it's-
given the age of given the age of their father, like, why wouldn't you just cast a 30-something woman, like, and then it would have made more sense and been more
Right.
plausible?
Yeah, there's no
Right.
reason for them to be that young.
Well, and
Unless-
some other thing, like
unless-
it's also what, Eric? Go
Unless
ahead.
no, unless your studio is telling you, teens go to see these movies, we need to have teens in this movie.
Right.
They're
in
not
which
being
case
serious.
Someone should have said you have to take the love story out if they're going to be teenagers. The other things that are creepy about it is that, like, yes, these two guys are super incompetent at their job, but they are still doing a job where they're supposed to be helping this family.
Yeah,
So there's a weird power dynamic that makes it very creepy.
there is.
And then you like have the whole debate about Hollywood not casting age appropriate women to play men's partners, and you have everything about this is so upsetting and gross.
Yeah.
No, I'm actually
Well, and
with
also
you 100%.
he's like hitting on her like nonstop through the movie, and she
The
is
whole
not
movie.
responding at all.
Right.
Like she is never like, yeah, okay, you're kind of cute, or ha ha ha, you're funny. Like
Yeah.
she's just like, you're a weirdo. And then at
Even
the
the
end, he
shit
just
She
like,
smiled
doesn't
at
like
him once in the
back.
closet.
It's
Oh,
just
well.
so
Oh, so
Yeah.
the other thing is, and I feel like the Hollywood grab the other person by the head and like forcefully kiss, like maybe it's time for that trope to go bye-bye is all I'm saying.
Yeah. You
Like it,
think?
it
Yeah.
feels a little weird, especially like Sheldon says after not getting any signals from her the whole movie that she's into it, and then suddenly he's
Right.
just grabbing her by the head and kissing her. And then it's also unclear if the other girl wasn't kind of picking up vibes from that dude, even though he was so creepy and weird.
Yeah.
I will say maybe
thought
the
that
only
was
thing,
Actually,
yeah,
I was somewhat amused when he
The
like,
Jell-O.
asked to eat her.
that was
what's it
probably
called?
the only thing I laughed at in this entire movie.
Yeah. And I think
was
the
just,
final thing
so
is that
weird.
and so this is gonna be my moment to talk about this, that everything about that dynamic is only made more troubling by the fact that this entire movie, like, all of the female characters are abused and treated horribly in a way that is, I mean, so Lin Shaye as a child gets beaten with a cane, and it's
Mhm.
pretty upsetting to watch. And then once we find out that can I spoil it?
Yeah.
Or we already do this. Once we find out that her dad is a serial killer, we watch him like beat a woman's head in with a cane.
Mhm,
And then when they
mhm.
go into the further, the two nieces get like taken hostage by the key guy, and he's walking them on chains like dogs.
There's
So,
no male
yeah.
character that is exposed to violence. They're
So Lin
only
Shaye makes a reference that maybe the brother was also being abused by the dad, but if he was, we never saw it.
well, maybe
Well,
like
yeah, they,
psychologically, or I don't know, by the fact that his father was like serially murdering people
Sure,
while he was in the
sure,
Well,
home.
but
they
I-
did.
but we
They did
never
allude
watch
to
it
that, but they didn't show it because
Right.
because he told her when they first met up, he's like, "You left me, and you left me in hell." So
Mhm.
they
Right.
did allude that he was getting abused, but yes, they didn't point it out.
I thought he
Right.
just meant because the house was really dirty.
That could be. That
Also
could be
because he
for
lost his
outlet.
whistle.
these handprints on
and-
the walls.
and whenever you have this is my last thing, but the whatever the key guy, whatever he's supposed to be or do, the way that the movie is set up is that if he possesses a dude, he makes the dude into a super violent murderer, but when he possesses a woman, she just becomes like a catatonic blob who gets to live in a, I don't know, this movie just everything
Every
All right.
man's fantasy.
Can
Sophie, I
we?
don't know.
So
bad,
we're
bad,
like in
bad,
Well, the
bad.
female soul is just not capable of possession.
we're like in
The thing is, women don't have souls, I think. Is the
yeah,
point of this
we're
whole
like an hour in and we still haven't talked about Key Guy yet. So can we talk about the Key Guy a little bit? Who's he was like the
He looks
focus
like Eddie from Iron Maiden.
since he was the focus of all the marketing and
They
super.
look cool. I'll give
Eh,
him that.
It's all right.
Yeah.
I wish I knew how much
He
screen
kinda-
time it was. It had to be less than 10 minutes.
I thought
that
his
he
face
on.
was kind of dumb.
He
Well,
looked
so-
like a Slender Man if Slender Man wasn't just all black, you know?
A little
So
bit.
he looked different.
Yeah,
So
like
the
a
bit-
little different.
So here's the thing. So if you're like me and you're watching this trailer and they first show the little ghost hand come out and it's got the keys for the fingers and you think, that's kind of cool for a ghost monster thing. We haven't seen that before. Then they start talking and they show that clip in the trailer where the girl's screaming and he takes his little key and shuts her voice off. And you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. He's got like special ghost powers behind all his keys. I can't wait to see what they do with all the other keys. They don't.
Nothing. Spoiler.
Yeah.
You saw everything that happens with the keys in the freaking trailer. So
Also-
why do we have the keys?
It's funny. I remember like in the original Insidious, you know, when they go into the further two, it's like they're wandering around all these rooms and they're in these kind of cool little set pieces. At what point did the further just become a hallway with doors?
When they
Fair
ran out of
Well,
money.
but that was it was in the third one where there's like different red doors, and if you go through the different red door, you can end up in like other I don't know. There was like multiple red doors.
I'm
I
just saying they
remember.
used to kind of wander into vignettes of like, oh, here's some creepy people around a table or something, and they're not moving.
Well, yeah, the second one, they're walking down the street of the town and into the house and through the house or something.
Yeah,
They were
right.
like not like down the street, but they
Now
walked
it's just a
like
dark.
through the yard and shit.
Now it's just a dark set on a lot somewhere.
Yeah, but
Lin Shaye does body slam at least one spirit in this movie.
she does not have a punch like Mom though.
No, Mom's
No.
It's a flying forearm. It's the AJ Styles.
Mom's got a haymaker on her.
AJ Styles finisher right there.
Oh my god.
Can we talk
This
about how
movie.
easily he's vanquished? Did somebody say that?
Oh, it was so
No.
disappointing.
The whole thing is so anticlimactic. I mean, this
I don't think he was
movie.
vanquished so much as he just kind of left.
He
Yeah.
He's
he
like,
kind of
"Yeah,
gets
I'm done.
pushed. He
Movie's
gets kind of
over."
thrown
No,
down
he gets
the hallway.
like knocked like Looney
Oh,
Tunes
my-
style. Like he goes like whoop, 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 you know.
The mom's like, oh.
Yeah. No, it's the whole movie is just so oddly structured. I mean, again, we keep coming back to like the screenplay is just a steaming pile
mess.
of garbage, but it it like kind of like builds to these like mini climaxes throughout the film where you're like things are revealed or there's sort of moments, but like all it ends up doing is then by the time like they've no way to like ramp and maintain tension. So by the time you actually get to the further, you're like theoretically at the most tense part of the film, but it like doesn't mean anything at that point. You know,
Yeah.
like you're now like rooting for this woman who you just met, the like Imogen woman. She's literally been in the film for like 15 minutes, and you're like rooting for her to like save Lin Shaye, who's the character that you like actually care the most about.
Mm.
But then Lin Shaye is like not really incapacitated. She's just like kind of being restrained. I don't know, the whole thing.
No, it's like the movie's really asking you to care about the nieces because they're the ones the most in danger, and you're kind of just like, all right, whatever.
Yeah,
like,
they don't give you any
just met
reason
them.
to care. Yeah.
Well, we just met
Because
them.
the only interest we have in Imogen at all is because after the nieces show up and then they get to the house, the only thing that we have any interest in her whatsoever is because in a throwaway line she tells Lin Shaye, "I see things too," and that's it.
You know who I care about in this movie? Rose Byrne. That's it. And she's not
Oh,
in this
yeah.
movie, so
Do you think
The
that
leftover
had
footage
to?
from the first
Yeah,
one.
that just had to be footage that was
Yeah.
sitting on.
Oh
the
yeah.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So the end of this movie basically matches up with what I think, what I'm pretty sure is the beginning of the first movie. So in the first movie, if you remember, Patrick, what's that guy's name?
Wilson.
Wilson.
Yeah.
His mother is the one who calls Lin Shaye because she remembers him having these incidents when he was a boy, and she had helped them out then, and so I'm pretty sure that's the phone call she's receiving, and it just made me laugh because she's like, at the point they get the phone call, isn't the boy like already in a coma? I can't remember if
Sure.
it was before or after
remember.
that
I
they
don't
reached
remember.
out. But she's like, okay, well, I need to get the rest of my night's sleep, and then I'll see you in the morning. But it was just like something cracked me up
So-
about the lack of urgency.
So Rose Byrne wasn't the person that called her?
No, she has a dream earlier where she sees Rose Byrne being concerned
Right.
about the son.
Okay. Now, was that when earlier when they're walking through the further though, and Lin Shaye steps through the wrong red door? Was that the boy from the second one? Like she walks into a room and there's a boy like standing on
the
a ladder.
Superman cape.
That would
Yeah.
be interesting. Actually, I wonder if that is the deal.
Yes.
That would actually be kind
Yeah,
of neat.
that was from something.
like
It was, yeah.
I mean, it's funny if I had like
Thanks, John.
it's funny if I had seen the original Insidious like recently, I wonder if there are more little Easter eggs like that. But since I mean, like, I don't know, when was the last time anybody saw that movie? So it's like
Yeah.
hard
And
to
who
make.
wants to do that research?
It's hard to make the
Well, and so
connection
now-
unless it's like really on the
now
nose.
when you watch the original Insidious, any scenes that Lee Whannell's not in, you can presume that he's in court for manslaughter for murdering that guy who
Or,
was
like-
already incapacitated.
Or statutory rape. Yeah, the cops like
Oof.
seemed to not have a lot of questions about him dropping that dresser on that guy's head.
In his
yeah,
own
it
home.
seemed like he was unconscious and they had knocked the gun out of his
In
hand.
his
so
own
it felt
house.
like extreme overkill to then smush his head.
He was in his own house.
Well, they probably figured that
It's
oversized
smushy.
baseball cap would protect it some.
Just like the cops, just like, yeah, I don't know, what kind of weirdo doesn't clean his kitchen when he moves into a house? It's probably for the best.
I'm just
know,
happy
I
Sophie brought up the hat because it looked like something like the Little Rascals when those kids were, real little kids and they put their dad's hats on. That's what he looked like.
I feel like that was an
Yeah.
I feel like that was an 80s thing. Like, dad. Well, that wasn't even
No.
the like dads wearing like misshapen too small hats that are all sweaty and dirty.
No,
What?
it's not the hat.
Yeah, I
Are
think
we
it
just
was a
learning
thing.
something about your life, Eric?
My dad does collect sweaty, misshapen hats. It's a fact.
Can I say one thing that worked for me about this movie? It was very small. But when what's his name? Todd, what's his name? Garza? The guy with
Yeah,
the bad
Ted,
hat.
Ted Garza.
Yeah.
Ted.
Oh,
When he has
24.
them over to when he brings them to the house and he's saying that the one room is where all the haunting stuff happens and it's the childhood room, and he has a desk outside and then just a pile of 70 to 150 Bibles stacked up. I thought that was like a neat visual. I'm gonna give that was the one thing I enjoyed about this movie.
Yeah.
I thought that was
Yeah.
cool.
Pros, stacks of Bible.
I really, really like the actress that played Lin Shaye's mom in the flashbacks. I don't know who she is. I don't know. She just has a presence that I enjoy, and I kind of actually liked.
That is the most random fucking thing that you could have enjoyed from
What?
this movie.
I'm just saying
but
I
okay.
like what that I liked an actress. That's not random, and I like the way that the mother stuff, even if it feels anticlimactic, I liked that it kind of came back around in the end, and it's corny, but it's kind of a nice little moment there with the cute Lin Shaye and her mom and her 90-year-old brother.
Well, when it all boils down, though, I
Like,
mean,
with the whistle thing, I like that.
I like Lin Shaye just fine in this movie. There's a lot of talk out there about her being a 75-year-old woman carrying this feature film on her shoulders, and kudos to her. I think she did all right for what she had to work with. The script is the problem here. Is the
Yeah.
biggest problem. She's not going to be like an Oscar-winning actress or anything from any of this stuff, but she does a good job. It's just there's nothing for her to work with.
I will say this: I just hope Lin Shaye's getting paid
Oh, I'm sure
Yeah,
she
that's
is.
fair.
at this point. I joke about
She's
her.
got to have grandkids.
I
to
joke
pay
about her
for.
playing hardball, but she literally actually should be at this point.
Well, sure. No, but that's to Casey's point why they've like introduced now the Imogen character.
Yeah,
to kind
right.
of like, oh, you're gonna get fresh with this, Lynn?
Since-
Like we're bringing in the younger talent. you
Since
know?
that actress was
We're
so
all out of chamomile.
that
Yeah.
Well, but really, there's nowhere for them to go with that character anymore, right?
Yeah.
Because they've made a full circle. So and they've told us about her childhood, like
Well, maybe now they do the training movie where she trains the apprentice, and then they
Well-
do the
Oh
movie
my
where she gets
gosh.
killed at the end. But then,
She's-
she gets
Well-
killed at the end of
Already
the.
it's a
Well-
good thing. It's a good thing they have such a scintillating character with Imogen that they can really carry the series on from here.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah,
because
she has so
then
many good traits.
because
like-
she'll be shacked up with Lee Winnell, and then they can be like a husband and wife team, and then it's basically the Warrens
and
at
that
that
becomes
point.
the Conjuring.
Yeah, because Elise is dead in the Wanaverse, right?
Oh, she dies
Yeah,
at
she
the
died in the first one.
she dies
that's the
at
reason
the
she's
end of
freaks.
Insidious. That's right.
Yeah, because they're all
Or-
backwards.
At the end of Insidious.
No, wait, doesn't she die at the end of well, is she in two at all?
Is she in the further into? Is that what it is?
I think she's like
I
a
don't
ghost
remember.
in two.
I think she's a
'Cause
ghost,
he-
and
he
she's like
strangles her
trying
at
to.
the end, right?
I think she's trying to help
Patrick
them.
Wilson kills her.
Yeah, she.
Yeah, you're right.
He kills her at the end when they're left in the room together, and then I want to say that she's like in the further in the second one, like trying to help them or something.
Yeah.
That sounds right. Because then, yeah, Rose Byrne has to go to the further right, and she sees Lin Shaye there. Maybe is what happens.
So these had to
Well,
be
because
prequels.
the second one's the only one that moved forward in the timeline, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
There's the first
So
one that
why-
moved forward to the second one, then it stepped back, and then it stepped forward again.
so confusing.
The only
Well,
way
this
I'm
one-
ever gonna watch another one of these movies is if they do a crossover between Insidious and Neighbors, and Rose Byrne is back in.
Do
There you
you
go.
Then
like serious
like
question?
Zac Efron goes to the further to fight Lin Shaye or something.
Serious question. Like these movies made so much money. Do they just jump forward next with like Lee Winnell and Sideburn guy and like maybe one of the young girls? Like, can they possibly pull that off?
They can do whatever they want at this point.
Probably.
No,
Yeah.
but I feel like
yeah, I don't
but
know
I
if
no, I'm
many
just
of
saying
these
like
teenagers were going to see this for Lin Shaye. They're like, oh no, the old lady's not in. I'm not
I
gonna.
get-
Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah, I
As
guess
soon
they
as they
could
got
just.
rid of the old lady, these went downhill.
I'm just saying. I guess they could be
They're
able to
so good
come up with
before.
some bullshit, but I don't know. I feel like keeping Lin Shaye, it's not about her, but it at least keeps the connection to that first movie, in a way. I don't know.
You guys lost me. All that further talk, but you know.
Too far.
Further.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
John, that is a sweet gas station cup you're drinking out of there, buddy.
Nah, I mean, come on, man. It's just a
Is
regular
that
old.
Foghorn Leghorn on it?
That's an IKEA cup.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right, guys. Would you recommend Insidious The Last Key, Shelton?
Absolutely not.
Sophie?
Under no circumstances.
Casey?
No, sir, didn't like it.
John?
No.
Yeah.
Would not.
I'm with these fine folks. No, thank you. All right, guys. That's going to do it for Insidious The Last Key. Let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
Something almost beyond comprehension is happening to a girl on this street, in this house, and a man has been sent for as a last resort. This man is the exorcist. Rated R.
This is Courtney Gaines and Malachi from Children of the Corn, and you're listening to Bloody Good Horror.
Send your emails to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or hit us up on Twitter at BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH. And don't forget to pick up back episodes of the show at podcast.bloodygoodhorror.com.
And we are back. I gotta say, guys, I really miss Joe's dancing when he's not on the show. He gets me hyped up, you know? Schnars gave me a little shimmy there, but nothing really like to get excited
A
over.
little bit. A little bit.
Just in time for our review, I just got this in my inbox. It says, it's an email from a distributor that says, "Get back in your box, Annabelle. Curse of the Witches doll premieres on video on demand this February."
Oh hell yeah!
Wait, that's like an Annabelle like
it's like
fake,
F-U,
like
it's
a
like
rip?
F-U
Asylum.
Annabelle. This is another movie about a killer doll.
I see.
Oh boy.
info@bloodygoodhorror.com is email address. We don't have any fan mail.
All right.
John.
Well, we got some tweets. Let's start with, we have two, we use two hashtags here at Bloody Good Horror. That's hashtag BGH Classics. This is for folks watching some of the classic episodes you can get as a patron at patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. So we got a couple here from Skylar Willett. That's at Skizbot. Joe says, "I saw a giant display of pumpkin along with all the other pumpkin beers that are out, and I made babies in my pants." That's episode 263. You're next.
No, thank you.
I'm noticing that the quotes are longer now because you have more characters in the tweets.
And it's easier
So-
to get like the full show, like what it was about in the episode number.
Yeah.
So
No, exactly.
I love it. If there ever there was a case for longer tweets, that's the one.
So here, this is so these are both episode 263 from Your Next. So another one from Skizbot. He says, and this one is Mark regarding quote beer guts. Eric hates that name. I love it. Eric says, honestly, I just can't handle any more fucking bumpers in the show, dude. I have to place all of those. Mark says, do you want me to go beer guts every time?
What number was that?
Episode 263.
So
Good find by
I'm
Skizbot
sure at
there.
that point I was still editing bumpers in, because now it's a lot easier just to mix them into the flow. But well, the joke always in the beginning was that sounded like what if Bloody Disgusting did this, that's what they would call it, and that's why I hated it so much.
Beer guts.
Like it's got to be a pun, right? Like a terrible
That's good. All right, this next one comes from Frank. That's at Frank V1313. Eric says, you would not like to see the latest Alvin and the Chipmunks movie in the U.S. have a bunch of like old man wiener in it. You wouldn't see that. And then Casey says, it depends on what theater you go Oh Christ. So that's from episode 187, which is the movie 11-11-11.
Oh,
I think that's like one episode that I legitimately completely blacked out.
I
the
don't
entire
remember.
episode.
Yeah, I don't think I remember anything from that movie.
Oh my God, that movie was I would put that in top 5 worst movies we've ever watched for the show. So, all right, that's all of our BGH classics.
Oh,
Let
those
us.
are some good ones.
Yeah, we got some good questions here for the old Ask BGH. So our OG, our original hashtag here, hashtag Ask BGH. Our first one comes from Ben. He's at _troll2 _.
Love it.
What do you think about Blum wanting to reboot Friday the 13th franchise? Could he be good for the franchise?
Yeah, so
or
it's
should it be in the
interesting.
hands of someone else.
So I saw a tweet today, John, from the official Friday. Now we should say this is the official fan Friday the 13th site, but they were deemed the
Official fans.
Well, they were basically deemed the official site back in the day by Paramount when like you never thought there was going to be another movie, and also nobody gave a crap about like official websites. So, but they are like actually a really good compendium on like information. Anyway, apparently the rights are about to revert back to WB. And so Blum has been out there saying that might be interested, but the way it would work is WB would have to hire them, which the way things have been going is entirely plausible. They could just like farm it out like a Platinum Dunes kind of thing. But whatever.
Do you
man.
think that Jason Blum knows where the Friday the 13th mask comes from?
Son of a bitch. I thought
I'm sure
that
Jeff does.
First of all, I mean, I guess I would maybe have a better answer for this after I see what they're doing with Halloween. But also, kind of, who cares? Because the remake was so bad anyway. I don't think they could do worse. In my opinion, anyway. I know some people were into it, but
Well, and we've already made the point earlier in this episode, like talking about Truth or Dare. Like when Shelton pointed out, he's like, "Oh, I didn't care about anything with this trailer till the end." They said Blumhouse. It's like, I'll give it a shot.
yeah, like
Same thing
I
with
don't
Friday
know,
the 13th. I'll give it a shot. I mean, they've done well by us so far.
because they seem to have a certain standard of quality, and it's not like, you know, I don't know. It's a certain standard of quality. That's what I'll say about it. Like it's not always amazing, but it's like I know it's not going to be total trash fire.
And the Blum brothers, Jeff and whatever his name is, they
Jeff, I like that in our canon we've now
Gerald.
made
brothers.
Don't forget Gerald.
in our
The
canon
brothers
we've now
Blum.
made them brothers.
they
Well, somebody on. Well, go ahead.
I was gonna say they seem to be have a good reverence to the horror genre in itself. So I don't get the feeling that they go out and try something completely different and change things, minor details around like the Paramount remake did. But like Eric said, we have to wait and see what happens with Halloween too.
Yeah. Well, somebody on Slack mentioned this. That after that terrible new Hellraiser trailer came out, that they should just give it to Blumhouse, and that's kind of a perfect place for it because Insidious basically is Hellraiser. I mean, really, like it kind of is about
it's
the
like
same
the
thing.
like it's the super
like PG-13
sanitized version.
Hellraiser.
You know what we're doing, you guys? We're creating a horror monopoly by just saying like, yeah, just give everything to Blumhouse. It's fine. Just like all of it.
Disney gets everything, like whatever. Like that's the world we live in, and then Disney's gonna buy Blumhouse, and like
This is like, sure, I'll get an Amazon Alexa in my house and let it listen to everything I say and write down all my words, and it's just like give it all your information.
this is the world
If we do this now, when the listeners start seeing the Bloody Good Horror logo of Blumhouse in tiny letters above it, they won't be as surprised.
Sponsored.
All right then. I'm glad we solved this. So the next one comes from @Lycanthropology, a dear friend here at Bloody Good Horror. Do you think the movies now are better or worse without James Wan at the helm?
I mean, they're worse, but there's just not a lot of material there, right? It's hard to say that I think he's probably better at crafting scares than some of these people, but I just don't. Did Lee Winnell direct this one?
No.
No,
It
he
was,
wrote it.
He
Yeah,
did
but
the third one, I think.
I still think that the material would be like just as thin,
Do you
Yeah.
think James Wan would have put himself with a love interest that was in college?
Probably not. I mean, he also does
he's
that.
never
so.
been in any of them, I don't think.
No, he hasn't.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
I think James Wan is like legitimately a good director. And
right.
so,
Well, that's
yeah,
the thing, and his time
when
has
a good
passed.
director leaves and you get a bunch of like second league people.
The time for doing Insidious movies has passed. He's doing Aquaman. That's his ticket,
Yeah.
Although maybe not. That could kill his career.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I
he
mean,
did a great job with the Fast and Furious.
yeah,
movie,
he already
guys.
did Fast and Furious. So
I'm just saying those movies are not doing good things for for Batfleck.
Yeah, Batfleck has something to do with that too, though.
Like
was gonna say.
literally, Ben Affleck survived Jennifer Lopez, but these movies might just finally murder his career.
he's doing fine. Don't cry him a river.
Is
or
he?
anything.
He
Yeah,
always looks
come
sad
on.
when I see him.
I think that, well, he's, personal shit and all, but all right, let's keep this moving. Our buddy Skizbot says, I didn't see the movie, but in the trailer I saw a monster man with spooky key fingers. If you could have special fingers, what would they be? Mine would be Swiss Army knives, popping bottle caps, tightening screws, tooth picking. There's nothing I couldn't do.
That seems like cheating. I don't know.
That's his emphasis, not mine. That is
Yeah,
that is definitely a cheating answer, though. Swiss Army knives as fingers. Come on.
My initial answer.
Yeah, that sounds like wishing for 3 extra wishes.
I don't think this is very practical, but my initial answer was going to be pizza.
I was gonna say chicken fingers,
Right there you go.
but they would need to regenerate.
Yeah, they need to be fully regenerative.
Oh,
I think remote control fingers would be pretty cool because I always lose the remote. It falls behind the couch.
It'd have to be universal though.
I could just. Oh yeah, of course.
But would you have to?
I've got 10 fingers, so.
Would you have to constantly?
TV, receiver, Blu-ray player. I'm good.
You'd have to carry around one of those pocket things so you could have all the codes to program them for things. Or I mean, I guess you could just
Stinky,
Google it too.
pinky, index, thumb.
John.
What was the old SNL Harry Carey thing? Does he say like sauce, like hot dogs as fingers?
If your fingers
would you
were
eat them?
hot dogs, would you eat them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I'd go with hot dogs. With the regeneration thing,
Sure.
if it was that or chicken.
slimy though.
I refuse to believe that you would eat such
What,
a
like you're-
such a.
The first time you go take a pee, it's gonna be weird.
Yeah, come on, but like your breaded ass chicken fingers aren't
Hey,
slimy and
What
weird.
are remote controls? They're like dry. They're waterproof.
John, Schnars, I
Can I tell you that the outside chicken finger has the same slimy ass consistency as a hot dog? Because I'm gonna call bullshit, sir.
Schnars, I refuse to believe that
Pizza's
you
the
would
real
eat.
loser.
John, I refuse to believe that you would eat a plebe food such as hot dogs.
I like
Wait,
a good
so
hot
if you
dog.
have pizza fingers, would every finger be a whole slice of pizza?
But
I don't
I
know,
wasn't
man.
clear. Were they
Yes.
pizza
Listen,
rolls or something?
I told you I
Like-
did not think this through very well. It's not the point.
Laugh
Get
around.
sauce on everything. Your daughter,
Well,
every
that's
time you
sick.
put her in bed, would be covered in pizza sauce. You'd have to wipe her down.
All right, this is really going off the rails.
Like-
The Crossfire Horror Cast, that's at Crossfire Horror, says out of every horror protagonist you can think of, well, that's a pretty long list, who is the one you would most like to go for a drink with? Mine would be the girl from Raw. Defo wouldn't take her out for a bite to eat, though. There you go.
Also, don't let her get you too drunk.
Hannibal Lecter.
I think Sophie would obviously take Specs from Insidious.
Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
He seems like he'd be
Good-
interesting to talk
Good,
to.
good palate, good palate for tastings and all.
I would go with the kid that was the lead in Night of the Creeps because he kind of looks like me, so we could hang out and I could tell people he's my brother.
Okay.
Cool.
Wingman.
Shelton?
I don't know. I mean, like, Ash seems like the one that comes to mind. Like,
Yeah.
seems like he'd be a good time.
It's pretty strong. I think I'm actually gonna second that. Can't come up with anything better, that's for sure.
I would pick Thomas Middleditch from the Final Girls, mostly because I want to have a drink with Thomas Middleditch.
Fair.
Is he in those Verizon commercials now?
Yeah.
They're really annoying. I don't like those commercials.
They're not great.
I think he thinks
They're not great, but he's great.
I'm not into it.
He's fun. Whatever. All right. Moving on. At Casey Kern 2 says, do you think we see further Insidious movies after this? Despite its quality, this one seems like it'll still be profitable.
Apparently, it
Casey-
made bananas ass money. So
Yeah, it did fine. Do not worry about the Blumhouse folks. They will continue to be able to make more films. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think we touched on this a fair bit. Like, I think yes, more Insidious movies.
Well, this movie even kind of felt like it could be an Insidious like TV show. Like if this were an episode of Insidious the series, it probably would have been, a middle of the road episode. And that's kind of what it felt like, a TV episode anthology kind of thing stretched out.
You can make.
And by God, they're turning everything into TV shows.
I was gonna say
nowadays,
you
so
could,
why not?
You could make a show. I would.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't watch the show.
I don't know.
But you could.
I
do
wouldn't.
It.
Yeah, there's
Not
no
with
No, I
Lin
wouldn't
Shaye.
watch it, but,
Not
like,
with
I
Lin
could see
Shaye. It would
it.
have to be whatever Patch and Mullet or whatever the hell their names are.
Yeah.
Specs
I
and
could
Tucker.
see
Specs and-
I could see them making a series based around them and hunting real
I don't know
ghosts.
why I said Patch, but it just sounded right. You know, good old Patch and Tux and Specker.
There you go. All right, just keep it moving. Bruno the Weber at that's Bruno Weber at Bruno the Weber. Don't these movies from the James Wan universe, aka the Waniverse, begin to look very similar to each other? I mean, what else
Yeah.
could
they're
they
all-
bring to the table? What would be these universes' Guardians of the Galaxy? Interesting.
It would all be Lin Shaye. It'd be 5 Lin Shays because she's in every one of the movies.
Well, no, it's Lin Shaye teamed up with
mom.
the
The
Conjuring
Warrens.
couple. Yeah, the Warrens. And
And
then
they'd be fighting that creepy nun.
Kevin Bacon's sweater from Sinister.
And Rose Byrne.
Not Kevin Bacon.
Rose Byrne.
That's not Kevin Bacon. It's
That's
a
Kevin Bacon.
Ethan Hawke. Ethan Hawke.
Same thing.
Yeah.
No. Shut it down.
Yeah, I think that's insulting to somebody. I just don't know who.
It's insulting to Kevin Bacon.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Ethan Hawke is fine, but
He's fine. Yeah, he's fine. Yes, he's fine.
He's fine.
That actually was a great sweater that he wore in that movie, though. You're right.
All right, we have one more here from our buddy Robel. Did Shelton happen to record the Europa Report podcast, and can he send me a copy?
Yeah, on the dark web you can find episodes of that.
That was a whole other computer ago too. That was when I had a Mac, so it was like, I'm pretty sure that was one where I, for some reason, just brain farted. You know, I used to record the episode right on the desktop, and then when I was done editing, I'd delete whatever after I backed it up. But I specifically remember like grabbing the raw and dumping it into my, you know, on the Mac, you got the little trash can, and then right clicking and hitting empty, and you hear that like ting, like sound effect, and being like, oh no, like, and then there's no getting it back at that point, John, unless you're like in IT and you can decrypt your hard drive, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't mess around with that.
Sure, that's what happened.
No, I'm sorry. That's what happened to the Buried episode. Were you on that one, John? I don't remember.
Oh, the Ryan.
Yeah,
I don't
no.
think so.
Europa Report was one where I just thought we shouldn't release it. It was, and actually that might still exist somewhere. I'd have to find it, because it's like reviewing a documentary. Like it just wasn't a good fit for the show, and I think we were all tired and never saw the light of day.
I was not on that show, so that was probably part of the problem too.
Yeah, me neither.
Okay, it's a great movie. I mean, it's a great ending of a movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good
times.
Hmm.
All right, that's all we got, Eric.
Oh, cool. Insidious.
Did I break it again?
Insidious, the last key.
Fuck. So far, I mean, it's so far.
Lin Shaye's swan song? Maybe? Who knows?
Oh man.
Not our
I
swan
think
song,
that's
John.
the next prequel.
It's not our swan song. We are going to go even further into the further than ever before. We got a few, empty weeks coming up?
Yes.
Yeah, we have 2 weeks, and then we will be seeing Winchester, the house that ghosts built.
What is that?
Helen Mirren.
Yeah, it's a
She's
thing. I
classy.
don't know. Sophie, weren't you the one talking about how you knew about the Winchester house? It's like a real
yeah,
thing.
the Winchester Mystery House. This woman who was the heir to the Winchester gun fortune was really worried that the ghosts of everyone killed with her family's guns would come get her. So the whole time she was alive, she just kept building new construction onto her house so that ghosts couldn't figure out how to get her. So there are like rooms that are weirdly shaped and stairs that don't go anywhere.
Yeah, I've seen that shit in like Ripley's Believe It or Not. It's like stairs that just go up into ceilings and...
Yeah, it's in California. So the movie is about her. Helen Mirren plays her.
That could be cool.
It looks decent.
The guy who plays Tucker is in it.
Oh, god damn.
So, yeah, you got that going for it.
Helen Mirren is a classy chick, though. So
Yes, that's what she likes to be referred to as. I'm pretty sure.
Classy
And
lady.
you know she drinks English breakfast tea. None of that chamomile shit.
Oh, yeah,
There you go.
definitely.
Hell yeah.
I like
Earl Grey all the way.
I like a good English breakfast tea. It's good. All right, guys. We don't know what we're doing next week, though, John, right? I'm sure we have a list of picks.
Yeah, we got a list. We'll have to dig some stuff up. I think there might even be some stuff on Netflix or
Okay.
such that we can check out.
If we get tired, we could always get freaky with some staff picks too. You know how
Correct.
we do.
We
Yeah.
could.
John just sneezed so
Oh,
hard.
man. Guys, I'm getting over like multiple layers of cold.
You do,
and-
yeah. You
and
sound better
such.
than you did last week. I'll give you that.
Well, it was 2 weeks ago. I had the flu. I had that death flu that you've been reading about.
Bummer.
So,
That's very presumptuous to
Yeah.
think I've been reading about it.
yeah.
Isn't it in Game of Thrones? The death.
Yeah. It was grayscale, Eric. I got
Oh,
grayscale.
okay. Whoa, okay. Now you're talking my language. Flux. Right now, I'm reading a lot about a bloody flux that's happening
Yeah.
in
That's
Marine.
tough, too.
Yeah. Sounds real bad. All right, guys. It's going to do it for Insidious: The Last Key. Hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget, you can get this episode live streaming on video. Find out how you can get all that and more at patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll talk to you next week.
See you.
Bye.
Take it easy.
Bye-bye.